What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture, and we're bringing you the third installment of this awesome countdown. This is the top 20 modern comics to invest in right now. We're going to be counting down 10 through 6 today. There's only one more video after this one, so I'm super excited. If you guys haven't caught the first two videos, definitely go check those out as well. So what we're going to be looking at is 5 more books and what they've been doing on the market for the last 5 years. And we got graphs and data to show you the trajectory of these books. And we're going to be talking about what we think that they might be doing in the next coming 5 years. So before we get into these books, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so and check out all the awesome links below, including how you can become a Patreon member of the channel for only $3.99 a month. And you can also join and be a YouTube channel member for only $1.99 a month. Both memberships get awesome extra perks. Check those out. Now, before we get into the books, I do want to take just 2 minutes to talk about and thank today's sponsor, the Otis app. Otis is an alternative investment platform that makes it possible for almost anyone like you and I to invest in shares of cultural assets. You can buy and sell shares of rare and high-priced collectibles, sneakers, art, and yes, you guessed it, comic books. Of course, that's why I'm here. So how it works, guys, it's really easy to use. All you have to do is download the app from either Apple or the Android Play Store. Sign up for free. You can follow weekly drops. You can buy shares of the latest drops directly from Otis or buy shares from past drops from other Otis members. You can then earn potential return by selling your shares to other Otis members, or if Otis sells the underlying asset, say for example, a comic book that you have assets in, and at that price at which you bought the shares, if the shares are more valuable, you earn a return. So we're looking at blue chip keys like Giant Size X-Men #1. You could get $29.50 per share for this book. If you go through the details of each item, it shows, basically it gives you a history and breakdown of the current market value, high sales, low sales, even just historical reference of what the book means, right? Amazing Spider-Man, $129, $24 a share. You got Tomb of Dracula, #10, the first appearance of Blade, $20 a share. And again, it breaks it down. Recent sales, it gives any, like, if there's movie spec hype, it'll show recent news. So for, the first appearance of Blade, you got the Blade movie coming out, right? We know that's coming from the MCU. So guys, really recommend you guys checking out the Otis app. Again, you can download it for free. And if you guys sign up for Otis with the link that I have in the description below, because you could get your first share free. So I want to say again, thank you so much to Otis for sponsoring this video. All right, everyone, big shout out and thank you again to the Otis app for sponsoring this video. I'm telling you, if you guys are like me, I mean, you're watching this video. So if you're looking at ways to invest in comic books and ways to invest outside of the box, check it out. Let's get into these books though. Starting off with the first book on the list at #10. This is The Century, #1. First appearance of the century. All right, we're going to look at some values here. CGC 9.8 fair market value, where it's sitting right now, $407. A high raw sale, $153. Here's why I put this book on this list. The Century is a character that I feel, I personally, I'm going to be quite honest, I was never really big on this character until recently. I started diving into the character more. This character has some good story arcs behind him, and I think this character can be an amazing addition to the MCU. And if that happens, I really think this character can gain kind of that Guardians of the Galaxy reputation, because we saw Guardians being announced, and not to say that the Century is B-list like the Guardians, but I just don't think the Century has had that popularity. So if this character shows up in the MCU, I think it's going to be a huge hit. And we've seen what Marvel Studios does with their characters and their properties. They do them justice. So that's why this book is on this list. But let's look at the trajectory, guys. So, this book has still been gaining value. So we go back 5 years. 2017 fair market value in a 9.8 sitting at about $237. In 2018, it increased slightly to $279, a little bit more to $296, and then a big increase in 2020 up to that $405. Then it's kind of hovered around that same mark for the beginning months of this year. Now, I do feel that some of this bump between 2019 and 2020 came from the popular notion being talked about from, content creators or industry entities that are looking at this character saying, yes, this character is absolutely feasible. We also had some speculation of the character's involvement in King in Black. So you get those factors and you put them together and you see a nice little bump. But like I said, this book has been holding value. Depending on what this character does in the comics or if the character is introduced in the MCU over the next couple of years, this book could level off for a little bit. Who knows? We could see some ebb and flow. But I think overall, this is a modern book that over the next 5+ years is going to continue to gain a bit of steam regardless of movie hype. All right, next book on the list. Amazing Spider-Man #4, the first appearance of Silk. Somebody's been in the comments of the last couple of videos of this video series saying, what about Amazing Spider-Man #4? I'm like, just wait. Here it is. This book is one that I have a 9.2 CGC in, and I also have a 9.8 candidate that is being sent off to CGC hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I'm still pressing a few books, but this one's ready to go. I definitely think it could get a 9.8. I'd be happy with a 9.6, but first appearance of Silk right now. Let's look at that CGC 9.8 fair market value, $322, but with the high raw sale of $300. Now, this book, we got an announcement, I think about a year ago, of a Sony project for Spider-Woman that's helped this book increase value. But I look at this book right along the same lines as all these other modern day characters that are becoming more and more established, like your Riri's and your Kamalas and your Miles. And this character, in my humble opinion, is right there. Now, is the Sony Spider-Woman project going to involve Silk at all? I have no idea. I cannot tell you. But I look for this book to continue to gain some value over the next coming years. Absolutely. I think this is a bit tougher one to find in a high grade too, simply because of all the white that's on the cover. My 9.2 I thought was around a 9.4 or 9.6, and it came back a 9.2 simply because of what I believe to be just a couple of small little blemishes in that white. So again, I think this is going to be a sought after book for a long time, and I think this character can show up in the MCU sooner than later, or knowing Sony and what they're doing with their Into the SpiderVerse or their animated properties, there's even more outlets that this character can show up in terms of either live action or on streaming services or in the theaters, regardless if it's animated as well. So very, very hopeful for this book myself. Looking at the numbers of this book over the last 5 years, wow, what a healthy book. Look at this. 2017, this book was sitting at $82 in that CGC 9.8. It had a nice little jump to $117 in 2018. Another small jump to $139 in 2019, but then that nice big bump in 2020. That's what I was talking about. That Sony announcement in early 2020 really, pushed this book up, almost, not quite, but almost doubling in value there. It's maybe about an 80% increase there. And then look, again, it increased by another $100 up to $322, sitting at about right now for that fair market value currently. So again, I don't see any factor that this book would cool off, especially in a 9.8, because we see the demand for 9.8 right now. There is big money in the 9.8 market. I've been talking about it. And although I think more books are more volatile than others, especially modern, I think this book is kind of just starting. You know, I don't think we're going to necessarily see ebb and flow anytime soon. So with that being said, you know, you ask yourself, is it a good time to buy? And you guys know me. I always say this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to buy these books because I'm talking about them. I can only give you data, give you the facts, and then give you my personal opinion on the matter. And here's my thing. I think this book is going to keep going up for the short term. So if you buy one now, you might be able to see it grow in value over the next coming months. But if something doesn't come to fruition with the Sony projects and no Silk characters involved, you could definitely see this book dip off. So if you want to have patience and wait to see if that might happen, it could benefit you, but you never know if that's going to happen. But once we see a dip like that, I still believe this book is going to slowly increase for that long term. That's the chances that you take. Modern books in general are more volatile, so you got to really play the market accordingly and be willing to take the risks. All right, moving on to the next book on the list. We got some indie love. Boom Studios, Something is Killing the Children, #1. What can I say about this book and so many other independent books right now? Let's look at these numbers. CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at about $779. Now, this book has been increasing in value, especially 9.8, so fast that by the time I air this video, that fair market value might be null and void and irrelevant, right? Outdated. That's how fast this book is moving. Look at this high raw sale of $635. I do believe there was a high 9.8 CGC that broke $1,000, if not more. So Tinian has just been working magic seemingly wherever he goes and whatever he touches. But we all know that there's a large market right now for these independent titles. If you watched the Comic Book Canon show just last week and watched our top 10, you heard me talking about how every book on that list was an independent book except for one Marvel book, the hip-hop variant, that was an ode to DMX because of his passing. That made the list. Everything else was an independent title. 5 different independent publishers, 5 different genres, and the market for these books is huge. And we know there's an option for Something that's Killing the Children. That obviously helps. But I've been in the community. I've been in the forums. I've been in the chats. I hear the feedback. This story is killing it, pun intended. It's not only killing the children, it's killing the readers that are reading it, man. It is killing it in general. So, look, we use, we talk about indie benchmarks, and we probably would use The Walking Dead #1. And we see what that book's done. That book was on this list as well. But for this book to take off so fast, you could say it's a bit volatile. Let's look at the numbers. Look at this. Look at this jump. Now, because this book came out in 2019, I broke this down a little differently than last 5 years because we don't have 5 years. We got 2019 and then 2020s. 2020A is the first half of 2020. 2020B is the second half. All right, the second 6 months. Let's look at it. When it first came out, we only had a couple on the census. You're sitting at about $68 fair market value, okay? But a nice little jump to 2020, the first half, the first 6 months of 2020, $104 fair market value. But then a huge jump, and increased 3 times in value in the last half of 2020. And look at what 2021's done. More than doubled in value again. $779 fair market value in that CGC 9.8. So this is a tough one. For me, I would not touch this book. I would not touch this book. But if I had to, this is what I would do. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Don't chase the 9.8s. Don't chase the 9.8s. Find yourself, especially for these modern books, find yourself a nice high-grade raw copy. If you're buying online off of eBay or Mercari or Facebook Marketplace, ask for 1 million pictures. Ask for as many high-res pictures as you can. Analyze the book. Look for every tiny defect. Is there pressable defects? that you think that you might be able to pay much lower than a premium for this raw book, pay a little bit to get it pressed and clean, and try to send it into CGC hoping to get that 9.8, you could save a crap ton of money. That's how I would do this. You know, what was the high raw? $300? Oh, excuse me, $635 for that high raw. So even the raw comics are getting up there, guys. But look, like I said, if this 9.8 is breaking $1,000, again, look for those raws. And even so, you don't need to find perfect copies to be happy if you want to own the book, and you don't have to find perfect copies, because if high grades and raws and 9.8s are increasing in values, it means that everything else is increasing in value too, whether it may be a 9.0, an 8.5, or a nice mid-grade, even for a modern book. But there's probably not too many, you know, mid-grades out there of these modern books. So moving on, our next book, Marvel doing it again with Marvel Point One, #1, 2014 release. This is the first appearance, the first full appearance of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Man, oh man. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. CGC 9.8 fair market value. Look at this. $1,135. Breaking that 1K mark. High raw sale, $404. Okay. Kamala Khan. The Miss Marvel TV show is wrapping up filming, or just wrapped up filming last week. I don't know if we have a specific release date. I think that's supposed to come at the end of the year. I think after the Hawkeye series, if I'm not mistaken. Kamala Khan. Now, here's the thing about this book. I'm all in on Kamala Khan. I think a lot of people are all in on Kamala Khan, and that's why this book is what it is. I think you got diehard collectors and fans all in on Kamala. You got investors and speculators all in on Kamala. Everyone is all in on Kamala. So I don't want to hear. I mean, I can hear it. You could drop it in the comments. I'll disagree with you, but I don't want to hear that. You know, oh, this book shouldn't be worth this much, and you know, it's nobody wants this character, and it's just speculators, you know, inflating the market. And look, the character is in high demand, but I will say this. The character has a lot to live up to. And if we get this show and it doesn't live up to the hype, it can hurt this book. But here's what I'm going to say in reply to that. Marvel Studios has not let us down. Has not let us down. So I don't see that happening. Let's look at these numbers over the last 5 years. This is another one that has just skyrocketed. All right. 2017, the book was already hot. This character, you know, regardless of what anyone says, this character is popular, especially among the younger readers and the international readers as well. And I think people forget that. $239 fair market value 5 years ago in 2017. A nice increase to $414 in 2018. All right, a little bump in 2019 to $433, and then a nice jolt up in 2020, $705. Obviously, huge because of the announcement of the show and that getting into production and so forth. Same with this big bump in 2021. Now, of course, you know, people in the comments are going to be like, oh, it's COVID, it's people blowing stimulus checks. And I talked about this all the time. You can go watch my videos about if the market's going to crash. And yes, I am never denied, you know, the fact that COVID has impacted how people are spending money, but it's not what you think. It's not because people are blowing their stimulus checks. There's a lot more factors and variables. I talk about that all the time. I'm not going to get into that here. But here's the thing. This is one of those things where you see this book has increased so much. There might be some ebb and flow coming, right? It might cool off, dip down a little bit. But here's the thing. This show's coming over the next year, I believe, or less. And when it hits, like I said, if it's a success, this book is going to keep going up. So what it might do over the next year or so until we get the show is questionable. It could stagnate a little bit, right? But I don't know. Like I said, people are all in on this character. So again, is it a good time to buy? I think, you know, you missed out on that good time to buy. If you want to go pick up this book right now, again, my advice, don't look for a CGC 9.8. Look for those raw books. There are plenty out there where you could still get and save a decent amount of money, spending some money to go send it off to CGC or CBCS or EGS, and hoping to get that 9.8 grade. All right, final book on the list today, none other than Edge of Spider-Verse #2. First appearance of Spider-Gwen. This is just another one. Marvel, I'm telling you, all these new characters, Marvel is killing it. They are killing it. Edge of Spider-Verse #2, first appearance of Spider-Gwen. I was collecting everything Spider-Man and Spider-Verse during this time period. But for some reason, I don't own this book. I thought I did. And quite honestly, I'm wondering if I gave it to one of my kids and they tore it apart. Oh, the life of having children and wanting them to get involved in the hobby, right? All right, let's look at these numbers. CGC 9.8 fair market value, $1,545. Wow. Absolutely wow. Look at this high raw sale, almost hitting that $1,000 mark. $959. Boy, oh boy. This is another one. All right. Into the Spider-Verse has propelled this character. Let's look at these numbers. 2017, just $195, which again is still, it's still decent. People were buying this book. A nice bump in 2018 to $340. And then another big bump, over $100 more in 2019 to $445. Definitely think that between those time periods, the Into the Spider-Verse animated film had something to do with that bump. And then you get this huge bump in 2020 to $735. And wow, it doubled in value plus from there in 2021. And again, 2021 is just a sample size because it's only a few months, but this is what it's doing. $1,545. All right. I do believe that this is probably the most volatile book on this list because of this. There's a lot that can come from this character, but then a lot that might not come from the character over the next year or so until we see Into the Spider-Verse 2. If there was one of these books that I felt could have a cool-off period over the next year more than the others, I might say it's this book. Just because it's jumped so high, and the only thing that we know about right now with this character is Into the Spider-Verse 2, which I believe isn't coming out until 2023? I don't have the facts in front of me, so if I'm wrong, somebody leave in the comments. So we still got over 2 years for this film to come out. I don't think Spider-Gwen is going to show up in the MCU, at least anytime soon. We don't even have a Gwen Stacy in the MCU, so that's not happening in my humble opinion. So what we have is Into the Spider-Verse. Now, but here's the thing. Movie spec is not the only thing that drives the value of these books, but I absolutely think it's had a play into the market of this book right now. The announcement of Into the Spider-Verse 2 during the COVID era, I think pushed this book up further and the demand further as well. So again, if we're 2 years away from this next film, I think people can just start, turning away from this book a little bit. And we might see this book cool off. So again, yes, is it a good time to buy? Personally, if I had the money, I would probably wait. Another thing though with this book that I think when you're looking at long-term, later prints, look at the later prints. You guys could go research some data, find some data, and check out the later prints of this book and how they're slowly increasing in value too, or gradually increasing. There's a market there for those second prints, and if you don't have over $1,000 to spend on a high grade first print, this is one of those books where you might be happy getting a later print. So again, this is all opinion based on the data in front of you, and all I'm doing is sitting here and speculating as well, because at the end of the day, we can't predict the future. So those were 10 through 6 We have 5 more books to get through. That video should be coming out next week. I can't wait to talk about the last 5 books. Let me know what you all think or thought in the comments below of these books. Let me know if you have any of them or if any of them are on your radar. And let me know if you think that there's any books that have not been on this top 20 list that you want to see still. But before we go, as always, I got to give a big shout out to all my Patreon members for continually supporting the channel month after month. Big shout out to each and every one of you. Tony T, Jesse, Larry, Serge, Michelle, Jacob, Tyler, Keith, Jeremy, Sean, Michael, Comic Spunk, Jeff, Tricky Clicky, Philly Born, Alvin, Frankie's, Fletch, Joshua, Pedro, Peter, Jason, Joe, Larissa, Sagi, Dan, Bishner, and Simon. Thank you all again. If you aren't a patron of the channel and you want to check it out, see what it involves, it's only $3.99 a month. That link is below. But again, before I go, I got to give a big shout out to all my YouTube members. My YouTube members who support the channel via the YouTube membership. That's only $1.99 a month, and that join button is below. You guys get extra perks by being any type of member of the channel. So big shout out to Josh, Louis Logix, Arthur, Comic Toby, Charlie, Luis, Peter, Blackout Comics, B-Moy, Tony, and Chris. Thank you all so much. So with that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts below. Thanks again to the Otis app for sponsoring this video. Be well, and until next time.